This week, using FM radio to fix a problem that bugs probably tens, if not hundreds of millions of people every day, and that's bad Wi-Fi. My guest today, Aleksander Kuzmanovic, has invented something called Wi-Fi FM. Find out what that's all about right after this short break. I'm Claus Hetting, and this is Wi-Fi Now TV. Join us.
Telecom Careers, the #1 global telecom and wireless job board, telecomcareers.com.
Right, everybody, welcome back and Happy New Year to all of you out there. We're delighted to be bringing you another series of Wi-Fi Now TV programs starting now and into the foreseeable future. We've got lots of great guests and lots of great interviews lined up for you this coming season. We're going to get to our first guest of the year in just a second. Before we do that, I just want to make a couple of important announcements. If you are working in the Wi-Fi industry out there, you're going to want to miss, first of all, the presentations from Wi-Fi Now, the conference in Europe, which happened last year, November. We've made all the presentations and the videos available for purchase and download. You can go to wifinowevents.com/Europe and press the download button to get an overview of what's there. I highly recommend it. It's one of the most complete compendiums on the state of the Wi-Fi industry right now, and it's available for you at that website address. Also, don't forget, there's more news of Wi-Fi Now. The conference is coming to the United States, in fact, to Washington, D.C. this April 19th to 21st. Make sure you mark your calendars for that. We've got a fantastic program for that conference in store for you. And if you want to know more about it, go to wifinowevents.com/USA. And if you have any question about it whatsoever, drop me a line at klaus@wifinowevents.com. Happy to talk to you about it and answer your questions, whatever you might be interested in, whichever role in connection with that excellent conference. Now, for my first guest of the year, I am very happy to welcome Mr. Aleksander Kuzmanovic. He is Associate Professor of Computer Science at Northwestern University, which I just found out, by the way, is actually located in Chicago, as I understand it. Excuse my ignorance there. And we would like to welcome you to the show. First of all, Aleksander, welcome to Wi-Fi Now TV.
Thanks a lot, and it's great to talk to you. We did have some discussions prior to this, and I enjoyed. I hope we will be able to let others enjoy as much as we did.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a great time talking about what we were going to talk about. So now we're actually
exactly.
So that's good. So Aleksander, just give us the 30-second version of what you're doing right now. You're an associate professor. You work on wireless research, computer science.
I'm an associate professor in computer science. I lead the Northwestern Networks group. We do research in various areas of computer networking. We are designing efficient networking protocols on all layers, and this what we're going to talk about is our actually first work that we did in an attempt to optimize wireless performance. So that's what we're going to talk about.
Great, and on this program we really like great ideas. And when I came across this idea originally, I thought this is so simple yet powerful that we've got to get you on the show. So we're happy that you're here. Just give us. Maybe tell us how did you come up with the idea of using something as basic in a sense as FM radio for optimizing Wi-Fi performance? Where did that idea come from?
Well, basically, I mean, because I'm a professor, I'm reading a lot of papers in research, and then I figured out there is a significant discrepancy in what we are seeing in the research on one hand and what we are seeing in the real world. When I come home and I live in a such a small building, I see easily 30 Wi-Fi networks in my apartment. And if you go back to all these research papers, they all are trying to optimize Wi-Fi performance when you are alone in your apartment. However, when there are so many signals going through the walls from your neighbors, it becomes a different problem. And we try to come up with a way to address that particular problem.
Exactly. And you've called this Wi-Fi FM, and I want you to take a couple of minutes to explain to myself and the viewers what this is about, because I think it's very powerful. It's very simple. I think we've got a slide that we can put up. I hope they're putting that up in the production room now. And I have it right here, in fact, in front of me. So maybe based on that graphic, you can tell us what your solution is all about.
Yes. So basically, we try to see, like, so what's common for all these different neighbors. They're next to me. What makes us, which particular signals are we hearing coherently when we are at different parts of the building? And we came up with the solution, and we figured out that that's the FM radio. Okay, FM radio. This is how most of us listen to music when we are in cars or at home or whatever. And then these signals penetrate buildings in a much better way than GPS does. Okay, so in addition to that, these FM stations typically have a digital signal associated with it. Okay, and this particular signal is used to convey information such as traffic or weather or which song is currently played on the program. And basically, this particular digital signal has a pretty good structure that we are trying to use in order to put all these different Wi-Fi networks on the same page, let's put it that way, to synchronize and harmonize them. Okay, so if you look at that picture, what we have is an FM tower. Okay, this is where the FM signal is broadcasted from. Then we have this particular USB radio stick, okay, which is basically what you're seeing is our current implementation of the system. Okay, then we feed that FM radio signal into the software radio. Okay, we extract all this information that we want to know, so different access points are actually gathering this information, and then this particular common sense of time is used to schedule data transmissions from different access points.
Right. So let me just pick up on a couple of those things. So the digital the digital transmission, or the pieces of digital information transmitted over broadcast FM radio. In this case, I think the name is radio data set, RDS, right?
RDS,
so this is
RDS, yes.
RDS. So these are this is the information that you'd receive, for example, on your car radio, giving you traffic, weather, whatever. So this is already it's a completely standard part of FM broadcast, right? Yeah.
Correct.
Right, and then what you're saying is that you can, into that structure, put information that will allow Wi-Fi access points and devices to sync to the same clock, so to speak, right?
Correct. So it's important to understand that we are not sending any signals in this FM radio spectrum. We are just passively obtaining this information about that is broadcasted through the RDS signal, and then we are using that in order to send smartly data on the Wi-Fi channel.
So you're essentially using it as a clock. That's it. You're not actually passing any information through there.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Super simple. So just explain to us then how this works in just a little bit more detail. So you would need, so when you synchronize all of this, what essentially it means is that the usual mechanism of Wi-Fi, which is the carrier sense, where an access point, for example, will not transmit if somebody else is transmitting at that band and give time. That's the problem we have, right? We have that problem because when you've got a lot of access points, they're all wanting to transmit at the same time, and you get collisions. So if you synchronize this is what you're saying. If you synchronize it, then you get around that problem essentially, right?
Sure. The problem in current networks, in current Wi-Fi networks, is that there is no idea when is somebody sending. Okay, it's a random process, more or less, right? So for that reason, one first has to listen to what others are doing before it starts to send. However, what we are doing, we are not at all touching this particular CSMA. We are working on top of this particular layer. Okay, so we have a very soft kind of layer on top of CSMA that helps synchronize all these different access points and devices. Okay, and then it's been shown. I mean, it's common sense. If you know when others will send and you know when you should send, then the probability of collision is significantly reduced, and hence the time we are wasting in trying to figure out who's going to send is significantly reduced. And this is why the throughput grows.
Right, so you're fixing the collision problem, if you like, with a signal that's already there and is available essentially everywhere, because obviously FM radio broadcast coverage is everywhere, right? I also actually wanted to ask you this. This is not limited to the United States, right? Or is it?
No. It's not limited to that. Actually, I figured that out once we started looking at this. It's available in Europe. There is also in China. A student of mine had a look, and they are also using this kind of signal. So this is quite everywhere, I would say.
So tell us a little bit about your test results, because you have been running tests on this, I'm assuming, in your lab at Northwestern. Can you tell us what kind of, is it going to improve everything by 100% here, or?
So of course, no, I'm joking. So I will try to explain this in a simple way. So basically, we do have a test bed consisting of a number of laptops that have these FM sticks and stuff like that. And our experiments were done in a real world scenarios. I mean, there are many other access points available in that space, so it wasn't some deep space where we just did things for our experiments. So the good news with YFM is that the bigger the problem, the more it helps. The more congested the place is and the more degradation there is, the more it is capable of helping. And if I have to explain this, for example, assume you can send at, let's say, 10 megabits per second. Okay, once you have your neighbor starts broadcasting, it's not that both of you can take 5 megabits each. You both are gonna drop down to 2 megabits per second. With YFM, it's possible to retain that so that you can both send, for example, at 5 megabits per second. To be more precise, in our experiments, we were able to show that if you have multiple users, the more users there is, the more gain there is. And we were able, for example, when there are 2 or 3 users, we were that concurrently send a lot of traffic, we were capable of improving the performance by up to 60%.
So presumably then the big application for this is high-rise buildings, highly densely populated areas. We've all seen some of the pictures and some of the graphics and so on of all the Wi-Fi access points in a place like Chicago or New York City. They're all over the place, and of course, completely uncoordinated. So that's where your invention essentially could have potentially huge benefit, right?
Precisely. I mean, and there's been a lot of buzz in the news about this. And I was actually reading a lot of discussions on the topic, and I found that people from Asia were actually some people were saying, "Oh, this is not a problem. I only see 2 or 3 Wi-Fi's. It's not a problem." And then somebody from Asia would come and say, "Listen, guys, I live in a skyscraper and I see 100 different Wi-Fi networks. This is a real problem." So the more dense the area is, the problem exists.
So why does this hasn't this already happened? Because it sounds like a really good idea.
I think, I mean, that's a really good question. And basically, I think that there is a little bit of disconnect between what we researchers do and what the problems are in the real world. And we really try to be honest, both to ourselves and to whoever might be using this tomorrow. And we try to ask, like, so what is the what is the real problem here? And the real problem is a bit non-technical, I would say. It's about how do you put all these different independently managed things together, and that's a hard problem in itself.
Right, exactly. We're going to talk more about that in just a second. I just wanted to actually ask you what kind of feedback you have received so far, because I think the first time I heard about this was back in December. There was some press on this in December, and you've been in the media and so forth, but also, professionally, so to speak, from the industry, what are people saying about this idea?
So, I mean, this was never ever intended to be some kind of hey, here is the latest and greatest that we have. I mean, this is the first paper we wrote in this area, and we felt good about it because we really think it solves the real problem. However, it ended up being quite popular. I mean, in the news, I gave interviews all over the place, and then eventually, that's when I got some feedback from industry. People asked me, "So, what are you doing? Are you gonna deploy this in the real world?" And I was kind of skeptical, because for this to get deployed, you would have to put on board access point manufacturers, device manufacturers, and everybody. And that's something. I mean, I have experience in putting things from the research to the real world, and I know how hard it is, and that's why I was skeptical. However, we are now collaborating with our industry partners who are claiming that the exact problem that I just mentioned, which is how to put things into devices, wireless devices, that's what they're doing, that's what they're about. So there is interest from industry, and we are working closely now with the company in an attempt they're testing our test bed, and so the results and everything else. So there is an effort going on there. So we'll see how that's going to go.
Right. So before, when we talked earlier, Aleksander, you also mentioned, of course, that you need this to be active on both the access point side, the network side, if you like, and on the device side. Now, the devices, you were telling me, already essentially have FM.
Yes. Yes.
Reception capability. Yeah, go ahead.
So just to be clear, yes, in the perfect world, it would be great if this was deployed everywhere. There are cases when even if it's partially deployed, it can be quite useful. So if it's only access points and not devices, it can be useful. If it's only devices, not access, it can still be useful. The perfect world would be if it's deployed everywhere. The good news is that FM chips are available in smartphones. Okay, so it would be hard for you nowadays to buy a smartphone that doesn't have an FM chip in it. And hence, this is one of the reasons when we were thinking how to approach this problem, we said, well, we need something that is really deployed out there, because if I would have on top of everything that we're trying to do, if we would have to ask the industry to put more hardware in your smartphone, that would be really hard. I mean, I'm not sure we would be able to. But the good news is that it's there, it can be utilized, and we think it's a great opportunity.
But it is also kind of a scale issue, right? Because as you said, if it were everywhere, life would be perfect. But so you would need at least one major device manufacturer to go along with this, and similarly be able to enable, either through manufacturers or something else, this functionality in the access points, right? In order for it to get
sure. Correct. And that is what our industry partner is promising it's capable of. Let's see.
You're not going to tell us who that is?
I'm officially unable to do that because I signed an agreement with them.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. We get lots of people.
But I mean, it's if anything happens in this domain, you'll be the first to know. I promise that.
Thank you, my friend. We want to cover it on this show.
Yes, absolutely, sure. I mean, you have my word on it.
Okay, so just to be clear, this is your patent, right? This is your IP, right? Okay.
Correct. Yes, that's how universities work. So this went through the IP office, and hence all the legal issues between the industry partner and the university go among them. We are just trying to help and make this work.
Great stuff, Alexander. It's really good to have you on the show. I really enjoyed our conversation. I wish you a lot of luck. I like this idea myself a lot, and I can promise you, I also know, the hoops that you have to jump through to get, some of these big companies to accept this kind of technology, despite the fact that I think it's a beautiful idea. But I wish you a lot of luck, and please keep us updated on this, and we'll get you back to talk more about it as it develops, okay?
Klaus, it was great talking to you, and I promise once again, if anything moves forward, you'll be the first to.
Thank you, Alexander. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody, that's it for today's show and today's guest. I just want to mention a couple of things about what's coming up next week on Wi-Fi Night TV. It's going to be a double header with two passionate Wi-Fi individuals. My good friend, William Buddy of Wildfire 5G will be back on the show, as will, Beverly Smith of Friendly Wi-Fi. That's her first time on Wi-Fi Now. She's from the UK, he's from the United States. We will be discussing and debating the need for content filtering in public Wi-Fi networks. It's a hot issue, it's a contentious issue. Do we need to protect families against inappropriate content and so on when they're surfing on public Wi-Fi networks? We'll discuss all of that and all the methods to do that next week. So don't miss it. And in the meantime, don't forget to connect to me on LinkedIn. Claus Hetting is the name. And as always, delighted to have you watching. We will see you again next week. Talk to you soon.
Wi-Fi Now is a production of RCR TV News. To suggest a show topic or to learn more about Wi-Fi Now events, you can reach Claus Hetting at klaus@hettingconsulting.com. To find out more about Wi-Fi Now and all things wireless, visit rcrwireless.com.